This is an illegal armed gathering. Stop now or I'll arrest all of you. That's what some guy in a flimsy uniform shouted as he barged into my cabin, right in the middle of us grilling ribs on the deck. Behind the glass door stood Patricia Blackwood, HOA president and self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, watching smugly with her phone up like she was filming a takedown. But what she didn't know, she just declared war in the worst place possible. Because on that day, at that exact cabin, nobody was a civilian. It was our 15-year reunion. The entire Colorado SWAT Alpha team, my team, sitting around the grill, laughing, debating whether Tim's secret sauce was really just ketchup and brown sugar. And then these 3 clowns burst in, dressed like discount mall cops, waving plastic badges and yelling about illegal weapons. One had his badge upside down. Another wore sneakers with his uniform. And the leader? His gun was a toy. A water pistol, painted black, dripping blue dye onto my hardwood floor. They thought we'd panic. Instead, Sarah, our explosives expert, gave me the nod. Tony, our sniper hit record. And the rest of the guys started repositioning, not out of fear, but instinct. I stepped forward calmly. Gentlemen, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Mind showing me your badges? The guy hesitated. His badge literally had a serial number starting with the word toy. His radio was a walkie-talkie. His cuffs? Fuzzy and pink. Why, you're all under arrest, he stammered. That's when Sarah burst out laughing. Weapons possession? Buddy, the only weapons here are barbecue tongs, and whatever that is, she said, pointing to the dripping toy gun. Behind them, the 2 others were edging toward the door. They were done playing cops. Then I saw her, Patricia, standing by her Mercedes, barking into her phone, waving like a general commanding troops. She'd tried everything over the past 6 months, fake zoning complaints, bogus noise violations, even attempted to condemn my cabin after I inherited it from my grandfather. But this? Hiring actors to crash a private party? She went too far. I turned back to the 3 wannabe cops. Here's what's going to happen, I said, loud enough for Patricia to hear. You're going to put your hands behind your heads and kneel. Not because you're under arrest, but because you're about to be questioned by actual law enforcement. 7 SWAT officers stood up behind me, forming a semicircle. Gentlemen, I said, meet the Colorado SWAT Alpha team. The leader's eyes went wide. His water gun clattered to the ground. We're just actors, man, he blurted. Some lady hired us from Mountain View Casting. Said it was for a documentary on community conflict. She gave us scripts, badges, even a fake director. As he panicked, Patricia's face went from smug to ghost white. She was losing control, fast. Then Jason, the lead actor, pulled out a fat folder. Inside? Contracts, fake IDs, and detailed backstories. This wasn't some prank. It was organized, scripted, funded. Sarah studied the documents like a DEA case file. Marcus, she whispered, pulling me aside. Look at these addresses. Every property tied to a family that sold or got sued by Patricia's HOA in the past 2 years. This isn't random harassment. It's a pattern. That's when it hit me. Sarah, what if this has nothing to do with HOA drama? What if she's trying to clear the land for something bigger? Sarah nodded, already dialing her DA contact. We've had strange reports from this area for months. Unmarked vehicles. Forest trails used at night. If Patricia's clearing people out, there's a reason. Just then, Patricia's voice echoed through the open window. I paid you $500 each. You were supposed to arrest them and clear them out. I don't care if they're real cops. We had it. Her confession. On camera. Every word. But then Jason said something that chilled me to the bone. She didn't pay in cash. She had us open business accounts under a fake company, Western Development Solutions. The website just went live last week. Sarah and I locked eyes. This wasn't just fake policing. It was a front, part of something much, much darker. Jason, I said carefully, did she say anything about the land? He nodded, pale as a sheet. She said once the film was done, the whole neighborhood would look different. That we were helping with a transformation. Outside, Patricia stood frozen, staring at us. The mask had cracked. And what we were about to uncover would take this from petty HOA warfare to a full-blown federal operation. Sarah stared at her phone, eyes locked on surveillance photos. Marcus, she's not just working with the cartel. She is their U.S. operations manager for this entire region. My stomach dropped. She showed me images, Patricia meeting with men in expensive suits, always outside recently sold properties. The pattern was clear: intimidation, legal pressure, forced sales, then resale to shell companies tied to Western Development Solutions. 15 families, all pushed out using her HOA as a front. That's when Tommy Rodriguez knocked on my door. A weathered man in his 50s, calloused hands, paint-stained clothes. "Heard you're having trouble with Patricia," he said, gripping my hand. "I'm Tommy. Used to own 10 acres next to yours, until that which made my life hell for 8 months." His story was familiar. Noise complaints, fake environmental violations, county inspections based on anonymous tips. She even claimed his would stain contaminated groundwater. Then came the lowball offer, $30,000 for land worth triple that. "I finally sold just to make it stop," he said. "Biggest mistake of my life." But Tommy had something more: evidence. Photos he'd taken after moving out, grainy, distant, but unmistakable. Trucks with Mexican plates arriving at 2 a.m., disappearing into the forest behind his old workshop. Armed men riding shotgun. No loggers work at night. And certainly not with cartel-style security. That's when Patricia made her boldest move yet. 3 black SUVs rolled up my driveway. Out stepped Patricia in designer clothes, flanked by 2 men in cheap suits, dead eyes, gang tattoos, cartel muscle. "Mr. Garrett," she called with a fake smile. "It's time we discussed your future in this community." I almost laughed. She was threatening a SWAT team reunion with mid-level cartel thugs. But then Tommy whispered, "That's them. Same guys I saw with the trucks. Especially the tall one with the skull tattoo. He's always in the lead." Sarah came over, phone still warm from her second decall. Her face said everything. "Good news. The DEA's been tracking this operation for months. And thanks to us, they finally have ground-level intel. Bad news? Patricia just called in what they're calling a cleanup crew." Patricia's voice rang out across the yard. "This neighborhood is changing. And people who resist? They tend to disappear." The 2 goons beside her weren't just standing guard, they were calculating fields of fire, planning escape routes, reading the room like trained killers. What she didn't know was that agents were already moving into position around the forest. Her house of cards was about to collapse. That's when I remembered something my grandfather once said: "If trouble ever finds you at the cabin, check the steamer trunk in the basement. Everything you need to know is in there." Back then, I thought he meant war medals and old family photos. I was wrong. I left Sarah and the team to manage the standoff and slipped downstairs. The trunk was heavier than it looked. Inside? Surveillance equipment. Federal IDs. Maps of the underground cave system. And a journal, handwritten, leather-bound, filled with 5 years of notes on Patricia's cartel operation. My grandfather, Judge William Garrett, wasn't just retired. He'd been undercover for the DEA, documenting one of the biggest drug networks in the country. The last entry, dated 3 weeks before he died, shook me. "Patricia suspects. If anything happens to me, tell Marcus to check the camera system. Look for the red light in the root cellar." I did. And what I found was terrifying. Behind a panel near the water heater, a hidden surveillance hub lit up, dozens of monitors, all showing live feeds from deep inside the cave system. Every deal, every meeting, every murder, all recorded. The most damning footage? Patricia herself, personally overseeing executions. A mining engineer. A journalist. Sheriff Robert Rise, all silenced after getting too close. Sarah joined me, scrolling through terabytes of footage and evidence. Money laundering, shell companies, cartel charts, shipping manifests, even a list of bribed officials. "This is it," she whispered. "Your grandfather was Agent William Garrett. Deep cover. He's a legend. And he finished the job." She called DAHQ immediately. This isn't just Patricia anymore. We're talking about taking down the entire Juarez cartel from Mexico to Canada. But the best part? He planned for this. Operation Grandfather's Revenge. He'd built a dead man switch. The moment the system was activated, DEA, FBI, Border Patrol, and local authorities would descend with everything they had. And Patricia? She had no idea the trap was already sprung. Then came a knock at the door. Agent Lisa Hawthorne. Late 40s. Hard stare. Badge out. Mr. Garrett, I worked with your grandfather for 3 years. I need you to know, he was one of the finest agents we've ever had. Her presence meant the takedown had officially begun. Patricia's stunt gave them legal cause, threatening federal agents? That was all they needed. Then Agent Hawthorne told me why this case mattered to her. 15 years ago, my little brother died of a heroin overdose. The drugs came through this network. I've been chasing the Juarez cartel ever since. Your grandfather gave me the evidence. You're giving me the takedown. Outside, Patricia was still threatening us, completely unaware that she'd walked into a federal sting. Then came the moment we didn't expect, but fully welcomed. Patricia got loud. We caught every word. Get the cleanup crew here now. We have a federal problem. Eliminate it before we're exposed. Her phone had already been tapped. Every word, every threat, recorded across multiple agencies. But Patricia wasn't done. She and one of her goons slipped around the cabin, toward the cave entrance. Agent Hawthorne's eyes lit up. She's going for the product. That's felony trafficking during a federal investigation. But what Patricia didn't know, Sarah and I had already swapped the real cocaine. 3 nights ago, we replaced 500 kilos of cartel-grade powder with the same weight in organic whole wheat flour. Gluten-free, non-GMO, straight from the local health store. The look on her face when she found her product? Worth it. Then, the mayor showed up. Bradley Donovan. Full escort. Legal team in tow. Miss Garrett, he bellowed, your property has been designated for emergency acquisition under eminent domain. You have 24 hours to vacate. Unbelievable. He was trying to steal my land while standing in the middle of a federal operation. Agent Hawthorne stepped onto the porch with her badge high and her tone sharp. Mayor Donovan, I'm Agent Hawthorne. This property is under federal investigation. Interfering constitutes obstruction, a felony with a 5-year minimum sentence. The mayor's face went pale. I was just following protocol. No, she cut him off, raising her phone to record. You attempted to seize federal evidence, in coordination with a known cartel agent. That's conspiracy. Right then, Patricia stumbled from the cave, covered in flour, looking like she'd lost a fight with a bakery truck. And Agent Hawthorne? She smiled. Mr. Garrett, Patricia has no idea she just walked into a trap your grandfather spent 5 years building. And now, we're about to spring it. How did everything come to a head right as Patricia Blackwood's drug shipment was arriving? The timing was almost too perfect. Seeing her covered head to toe in white powder, what she thought was pure cocaine, was poetic justice. In reality, it was premium baking flour. She looked less like a criminal kingpin and more like the tragic victim of a Pillsbury Doughboy assault. Her cartel enforcers stared at her in confusion, clearly wondering why their boss looked like a walking bakery explosion. The product is compromised, she snapped, unaware that her every word was being recorded by multiple federal agencies. Someone's tampered with our inventory. We need to eliminate the witnesses immediately. That's when the Juarez cartel's cleanup crew arrived. Within seconds, the atmosphere turned from federal sting operation to full-blown war zone. 4 black SUVs rolled up, releasing 12 heavily armed men in tactical gear, cold professionals sent to eliminate anyone who'd seen too much, including Patricia herself. Agent Hawthorne immediately called for backup, but reinforcements were 20 minutes out. We were about to be outnumbered and outgunned. What the cartel didn't know was that we had been preparing for this exact moment. Since Agent Hawthorne's arrival, we'd fortified my grandfather's cabin into a tactical stronghold. 8 of Colorado's most elite SWAT officers, armed and spread across the property, stood ready to face down 12 cartel soldiers. What they expected to be a routine cleanup turned into a deadly miscalculation. The next 3 hours would go down as the largest coordinated law enforcement operation in Colorado history. The cartel soldiers, confident and armed to the teeth, moved in formation until Operation Dragon Lockdown was unleashed. My grandfather had designed the entire plan over 5 years. Agent Hawthorne had spent months getting every federal agency on board. Within minutes, the surrounding forest came alive. Over 80 agents from the DEA, FBI, ATF, and Border Patrol converged on the site. The shooting began when a flour-drenched Patricia screamed, "Kill everyone and burn this place down." The irony was rich. After all her intimidation tactics, here she was, ordering a massacre of federal agents on my property. But she'd made a fatal error, assuming we were just small-town cops. Sarah Mitchell took up a sniper position behind the barbecue grill, eliminating cartel soldiers with surgical precision. Tony Rodriguez was on the cabin roof, providing overwatch like the seasoned pro he was. The rest of our team moved like shadows, turning the cartel's numbers into a disadvantage. "These guys may be killers," Sarah muttered during a brief lull, "but they're not soldiers. They're used to scaring civilians, not fighting trained law enforcement." She was right. In the first hour, 8 of the 12 cartel soldiers were down. Our side suffered only minor injuries. But the real twist came when Patricia's own crew turned on her. The cartel had discovered the flour swap and realized Patricia had been skimming product. "You stole from the Juarez family, you lying puta," one soldier shouted before firing 3 bullets into her chest and shoulder. Patricia Blackwood, HOA tyrant turned drug queenpin, was bleeding out in my driveway, shot by her own men. Inside the cabin, Agent Hawthorne coordinated the expanding operation from a makeshift command center in my kitchen. "We've got visual on the entire cave system," she radioed. "At least 30 more cartel operatives are underground trying to destroy evidence. Seal the exits. Now." What started as a bust for Patricia's crew had exploded into the complete dismantling of the cartel's southwestern hub. Then, in a moment of poetic irony, Patricia's own son arrived. Michael Blackwood stepped out of a government vehicle wearing a wire, flanked by federal agents. For over a year, he'd been secretly helping Agent Hawthorne, horrified by his mother's descent into violence and corruption. "I couldn't let her keep killing people," he said as paramedics worked on her wounds. "She used to be good. But after Dad left, she changed. I begged her to stop. She wouldn't." Michael's testimony, combined with physical evidence from the cave system, sealed the case. Alongside 500 kilograms of cocaine and $80 million in cash, agents uncovered the preserved crime scene of Sheriff Hendricks, shot by Patricia 14 months earlier. "This isn't just drug trafficking," Agent Hawthorne explained. "This is capital murder." 4 surviving cartel members surrendered and immediately began offering intel in exchange for leniency: names, routes, contacts. The dominoes fell fast. Mayor Donovan was arrested at City Hall. Offshore accounts traced over $2 million in bribes. County commissioners, the former sheriff, and even a federal judge were exposed. "We've uncovered corruption all the way to the federal level," Hawthorne later told reporters. "Thanks to Judge Garrett's notes and his grandson's cooperation, we've dismantled an operation poisoning communities across the Southwest." Patricia survived, but barely. As she was loaded into the ambulance, she tried one last manipulation. "I can give you bigger fish," she gasped. "I have intel on operations you don't even know about." Agent Hawthorne calmly read her Miranda rights. "Miss Blackwood, you are under arrest for conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, murder in the first degree, and treason against the United States. You have the right to remain silent, and I strongly suggest you use it." When the smoke cleared, Patricia's empire was in ruins. 6 months later, she was sentenced to life without parole at ADX Florence, the nation's most secure supermax prison. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours. The verdict: guilty on all counts. Her crimes included 3 counts of murder, conspiracy to distribute, money laundering, and the big one, treason. The judge, disgusted by her actions, recommended solitary confinement. "Your betrayal of justice and life will be repaid in full," he said. Watching her disappear in chains, clad in an orange jumpsuit instead of designer clothes, was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Thanks to the seizure of her assets, the 15 families she had harassed were made whole, plus $20 million in victim compensation. Tommy Rodriguez rebuilt his workshop and renamed his business Blackwood Free Carpentry. Other families moved back or started new lives, each sending letters of gratitude to the federal team. One elderly couple used their payout to fund scholarships for children of fallen officers. Michael Blackwood entered witness protection and received a full scholarship to law school. "I want to put people like my mother behind bars," he told Hawthorne. His courage helped convict 37 cartel members and brought down one of North America's most powerful drug networks. The cave system was sealed and transformed into a memorial. A new educational center now teaches school groups and law enforcement trainees about drug trafficking and corruption, honoring the journalist, the sheriff, and others who lost their lives in pursuit of the truth. Every year on the anniversary of Patricia's arrest, my SWAT team returns for a Justice Day barbecue, now a gathering of over 100 people, victims, agents, law enforcement, and community members all standing against corruption. Agent Hawthorne attends every year. Sarah Mitchell was promoted to DEA regional lead. And Patricia? She's filed over 200 complaints from prison about her meals, her cell, her cable access, still convinced she deserves special treatment. Some people never learn. But justice did. Operation Dragon Lockdown resulted in 300 arrests across 12 states and 3 countries. The Juarez cartel's U.S. operations were destroyed. Agent Hawthorne estimated it prevented over $10 billion in drugs from reaching American streets. As I sit on my porch today, looking out over the forest that once hid a criminal empire, I think about what it took to bring it all down: courage, community, and the refusal to back down. Patricia Blackwood tried to intimidate the wrong people. And justice, though slow, always finds its way. Have you ever felt powerless against someone abusing their authority? Seen bullies win while good people suffer? This story proves justice can prevail when people stand together and refuse to be silenced. We bring you tales where integrity, courage, and cleverness defeat corruption and fear. If you believe good people should win, hit that like button and subscribe for more. We're building a database for future stories. Leave a comment with your favorite moment from this one. Thanks for watching.